Humanity had once been known across the galaxy. Long ago, before the oldest living civilizations were even born, humans were everywhere. Their ships traveled between stars like someone walking across a street. They built cities floating in space, colonies on planets with blue oceans or red deserts, and great learning centers where knowledge from 1,000 worlds was shared. People from many species visited human space to trade, learn, and admire their creativity. Humans were not the strongest nor the most technologically perfect, but they were curious, brave, and endlessly inventive. And because of this, they rose quickly and brightly. Yet something happened. Something so large, so mysterious, that even now nobody fully understands it. One day, without warning, humanity vanished. They did not leave messages. They did not say goodbye. There were no signs of war, no disease, no natural disaster. Their cities remained. Their machines remained. Their art and books remained. Everything was still there. But the humans were gone. It was as if they had been erased from existence in a single moment. Other civilizations tried to find answers. Historians traveled to abandoned human worlds. Scientists studied their technology. Explorers walked through silent megacities where the wind whistled between empty towers. There were cups left on tables, tools left on workbenches, unfinished letters on screens. It felt as if everyone had simply stood up and walked away. No one ever found bodies or traces of struggle. There were no clues except for silence. As centuries passed, the mystery grew into legend. At first, those who had known humans still lived, so they told stories. They spoke of human laughter, music, war, art, mistakes, dreams, and friendships. But time changes everything. Those civilizations aged, new ones were born, and eventually, there was no one left who had ever truly met a human. The memory of humanity shifted. It changed from history to myth. Some believed humans had ascended into a higher form of life, becoming beings of pure mind and light. Others believed humans had destroyed themselves with their own pride and technology. A few believed humans still existed, hiding far away, watching, waiting for a moment to return. But most people simply stopped thinking about them. It had been too long. Too much had changed. New empires ruled the galaxy now. New cultures flourished. The absence of humans no longer felt strange. It felt normal. Though humans were gone, the traces they left behind caused confusion and fascination. Human art was found in museums across worlds, paintings full of emotion, stories full of hope and sorrow. Some scholars believed humans were deeply emotional creatures, capable of great love and terrible conflict. Others argued that humans were simply unpredictable, and that was why they disappeared. Maybe they feared their own power. Human ruins became destinations for tourists, archaeologists, and treasure hunters. Many planets where humans once lived were now overgrown with alien forests, their grand cities swallowed by vines and roots. Some worlds were locked behind time shields or protected by ancient human defenses that no one could break. Those places became holy in some cultures, sacred remnants of a vanished race. But as time passed, more and more civilizations began to question if humans ever truly existed at all. Some said the ruins were created by an older unknown species, and humans were only a story invented by scholars. Some believed the human language written in ancient libraries was simply a code system developed for trade. Some even suggested that humans were not a species but a metaphor, a symbol used to describe ambition, curiosity, and change. Many young students laughed when their teachers spoke of humans. To them, humans were no more real than dragons or gods. Yet there were still those who believed. Among them were quiet groups of researchers, small cults, dreamers, poets, and scientists who felt there was something unfinished about the story. They studied every fragment of human culture they could find. They traveled to silent planets and searched for patterns in old star maps. They said that humanity's disappearance was not the end of their story, only a pause. And so the galaxy moved forward. In the absence of humans, new powers rose. Empires formed alliances and fought wars. Trade routes expanded. Entire planets were reshaped to fit the needs of their inhabitants. The galaxy thrived and struggled just as it always had. But hidden deep in cultural memory, in myths and children's books, there was always a faint echo, the idea of a race that had once walked among the stars, laughed without fear, loved without hesitation, and vanished without explanation. 20,000 years is a long time. Civilizations rose and fell many times over in that span. The galaxy forgot what human voices sounded like. It forgot their languages. It forgot their humor and their anger. It forgot what it felt like to be inspired by them. The ruins remained, but they were only empty shells, souvenirs of something too distant to feel real. And yet, one thing remained untouched by time: curiosity. There were those who still wondered where humanity went and why they disappeared. But their search always ended the same way: silence. No signals, no remains, nothing new. Just the same abandoned worlds and cold stars, because humanity had chosen silence. They had left the galaxy willingly. They had gone somewhere far, somewhere unknown, somewhere beyond the edges of maps and imagination, and for 20,000 years they did not contact anyone. They did not return. They watched, perhaps, or slept, or changed, but the galaxy did not know. Only the silence knew, and the silence lasted long enough that everyone stopped listening. Then, everything changed, because one day, after 20,000 quiet years, the silence broke. Not slowly, not softly, but in a moment so powerful that every advanced listening array, every deep space sensor, every signal relay across the galaxy detected the same thing at the same time. A transmission, not in any common language, not in any code known to modern civilization. It was old, ancient, it was human. For the first time in 20,000 years, humanity spoke again, and the galaxy listened. For a long time, space communication devices listened to empty silence. They were designed to detect distant radio waves, signals, pulses, anything that might show life or technology. But year after year, century after century, all they heard was background noise from stars and cosmic radiation. Engineers repaired the devices, updated systems, and replaced old satellites, but nothing changed. Silence had become normal, like the quiet after a long story has ended. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. It was a normal day in many star systems. People were going to work, ships were traveling, students were studying, and scientists were doing their usual tasks. No one thought anything special would happen. But suddenly, alarm lights began to blink in major communication centers. Screens showed unusual wave patterns. Computers began analyzing something unfamiliar. At first, many people thought it was an error, maybe a glitch or malfunction, but the signal did not stop. It grew stronger. Scientists in different regions of space received the same strange transmission, and word spread fast, carried by emergency communication channels. The message was old yet sharp, like a voice waking up from a deep sleep. The galaxy's most advanced computers compared the signal to known languages, and something shocking happened. The pattern matched one that was only found in ancient databases. It was human. Not a rumor. Not a fragment, not a false reading, a real, active signal. The scientific world froze. Some people could not believe it. Others cried. A few laughed nervously, unable to understand the situation. For 20,000 years, humans had been silent, and now suddenly they were speaking again. The message came from a star system that was long believed to be dead. On galactic maps, it was marked as abandoned, unstable, dangerous, and forgotten. No ships went there. No trade routes passed near it. Many thought nothing existed there anymore. Yet the signal pulsed from that exact place, bright and clear, repeating the same coded phrase again and again, like a heartbeat in the void. No one could decode the full meaning yet, but everyone agreed on one thing: it was not a distress signal. It was a message of presence. A message that said, "We are here." This news shook every government, every research academy, every empire across the galaxy. Political leaders called emergency councils. Religious groups declared prophecies fulfilled. Military commanders raised alert levels. Some people celebrated, believing that humans returning meant a new age of knowledge and discovery. Others were terrified, afraid that humans had returned to conquer the galaxy again. Stories of humanity had always been dramatic. Ancient records described humans as brilliant but unpredictable. They had built wonders, but they had also fought great battles. They had explored brave new worlds, but they also risked everything to push boundaries beyond reason. So when the signal came, civilizations reacted not with calm curiosity, but with fear, hope, confusion, and excitement all mixed together. Eventually, a decision was made. A coalition would send ships to investigate. It would not be one empire nor one species. The mission had to be shared. No one wanted to face the unknown alone, and no one wanted another empire to gain secret advantage if humanity truly had returned. So diplomats negotiated, soldiers trained, scientists prepared equipment, pilots studied charts of the dead star system, and historians reviewed all the old documents about humans. Everyone felt they were standing on the edge of something huge. Something that might change everything, just like the day humans vanished long ago. The fleet that formed for this mission was unlike anything ever seen. It contained ships of many shapes and designs, each representing a different culture. Some looked sleek and white, shining like polished bone. Others were dark, covered in armor and shields. Some carried laboratories and libraries. Some carried weapons, just in case. A truth everyone understood, but no one spoke aloud. They were going to meet something ancient, something powerful, and no one knew what to expect. When the fleet launched, billions of eyes watched from screens across thousands of worlds. Children asked questions. Elders prayed. Scholars scribbled notes. And in deep space, the ships flew on, traveling through light years of darkness toward the source of the signal. The journey took time. Some crew members looked out their windows into the endless black and wondered what kind of beings they would meet. Would humans still look the same? Would they speak? Would they remember anyone? Would they be angry? Kind changed? Others worried that the signal might be a trap. Perhaps humanity had not returned at all. Maybe another species had found human technology and was using it. Or maybe something terrible had happened to humans, and the signal was just their last echo. As the fleet approached the system, scanners detected colossal energy fluctuations. The star at the center was older and dimmer than most, almost fading. But orbiting around it was something that made everyone catch their breath. It was not a planet. It was not a station. It was a structure enormous and precise, a ring-like shape that circled the star, a Dyson ring, a megastructure that could only be built by a civilization far advanced beyond anything currently known. The coalition ships slowed down. Pilots adjusted controls with trembling hands. Historians whispered in awe. A Dyson structure meant mastery of star-level energy. To build one, a civilization needed intelligence beyond imagination. And humans had built it. The structure shone faintly, like an ancient jewel resting in the dark. But it was not abandoned. It was active. Energy flowed through its surface like glowing rivers. Something was alive there. Then the signal changed. The repeating coded message stopped. The screens inside every ship flickered. And a new transmission appeared. It was simple. Calm. Spoken in a language no one had used for 20 millennia. Yet strangely, everyone understood its meaning. We have returned. There was no threat. No demand, no emotion. Just presence, confident, steady, and real. Silence filled the fleet. For a moment, no one breathed. It felt as if the past and the present had collided. Everything the galaxy thought it knew about history suddenly felt incomplete. Then movement was detected. Hundreds of ships emerged from the shadows of the Dyson ring. They did not look like warships. They had smooth, flowing shapes like living structures grown instead of built. They emitted no weapon signals, no aggression, no warning signs. They simply moved, quiet, controlled, graceful. Inside every ship, someone whispered, "They are human." But they were not exactly the humans described in old stories. These humans were different, calm, taller, radiant with quiet knowledge. Their eyes held something deep, something that frightened and fascinated at the same time. They were familiar and unfamiliar, returning yet changed by their long disappearance. They did not rush. They did not fire. They simply came forward as if greeting old friends after a long time apart. The coalition fleet waited, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The moment felt heavy, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The signal had been real. Humanity had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. When the coalition ships saw the humans step out from their elegant, silent vessels, the crews could not understand what they were witnessing. These humans looked like humans from legends. Same structure, same familiar eyes, same sense of presence, but also different in ways that were impossible to describe with simple words. Their skin seemed smoother. Their movements were almost too calm, too controlled. Their eyes held a depth that felt like looking into the night sky itself, as if they had seen things no one in the galaxy could imagine. The humans did not speak at first. They stood there, peaceful, patient, watching the visitors as if waiting for them to settle their own thoughts. The coalition leaders felt unsure of how to begin. They had rehearsed speeches on their journey, practiced diplomatic greetings, and prepared many different approaches. But now, standing face to face with the species believed extinct for 20,000 years, all those words seemed small. Finally, one of the diplomats took a slow breath and stepped forward. He introduced himself carefully, using a universal communication method. His voice shook slightly, but he managed to speak with respect. The humans listened without interrupting. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then one human stepped forward. Her voice was gentle but clear enough that every translator system in the fleet synchronized instantly. She did not speak loudly, yet everyone heard her as if she were right beside them. "We know who you are," she said. "We remember the galaxy." The diplomat almost forgot how to breathe. The humans had not forgotten. They had not erased the past. They remembered everything. Every civilization that had once been their friend, rival, ally, neighbor. The coalition wanted to ask the most important question. Where had humanity gone? Why had they disappeared? But before they could ask, the humans gestured for them to follow. Small transport ships arrived, smooth and silent. The coalition members stepped aboard. The interior of these ships felt warm, like being inside a living organism. The walls were soft but strong, the lighting gentle and natural, not artificial. It felt alive. The ships moved toward the Dyson ring. As they approached, the coalition realized the structure was not just a machine. It was a world made of light, energy, cities, and landscapes woven into a circle around the star. Oceans glowed softly with embedded energy channels. Buildings looked grown, not constructed. Gardens floated in the air, suspended on invisible platforms. This was not technology the galaxy understood. It was something beyond, something that looked like science and art combined. The coalition leaders finally asked the question that had been held inside them for so long. Why did you leave? Why did humanity disappear for 20,000 years? The humans did not answer immediately. They brought the visitors to a vast hall open to the starlight, where the view of the galaxy stretched endlessly. There, the humans began to speak. Not in a rushed way, not dramatically, but with calm honesty. Humanity had left because they had reached a point where they could no longer grow in the ordinary way. Their intelligence, technology, and emotions had all risen so quickly that they were close to destroying themselves. They fought wars too powerful, invented weapons too dangerous, and created knowledge that their minds could not fully understand. They stood on the edge of greatness and collapse at the same time, so they made a choice. They withdrew. Not out of fear, not out of defeat, but to evolve. They traveled beyond known space, far past the borders of all maps. They entered regions where time and matter behaved differently. They studied existence, thought, life, death, and the mysteries of consciousness. Generations passed. Their bodies adapted slowly. Their minds expanded. Their technology shifted from machines built with metal and circuits to forms that grew like living things, shaped by intention and knowledge. They did not abandon the galaxy. They were waiting for the right moment to return, when their presence would no longer be dangerous, when they would not repeat old mistakes. The coalition members listened in silence. It was hard to understand everything, but they could feel the truth in the humans' voices. Humanity had not just changed, they had transformed. But while the explanation was extraordinary, something about it made many in the coalition uneasy. If humans had evolved so far, if they now had knowledge and technology beyond any empire, what did they want now? What was the purpose of their return? The diplomat asked carefully, "Why have you come back now?" The human spokesperson looked at him gently, her expression calm, but her eyes held something deep and emotional. "Because the galaxy is changing again," she said. "We saw it. We watched it happen from afar." She explained that many star systems were dying. Some worlds had ecosystems collapsing. Wars between newer empires were growing more frequent. The balance of peace and progress was starting to break. Patterns that had existed 20,000 years earlier were rising again. Humanity had returned not to rule, not to reclaim land, not to command. They had returned to help. But even this truth did not ease the tension entirely. The coalition members still felt a strange heaviness. The humans were offering peace, but their presence alone was powerful enough to cause fear. Their voices were calm, but their knowledge was vast. Their bodies were human, but their aura was almost something more. The galaxy had changed while they were gone. New empires had grown strong. Many did not want to share power. Many feared losing control. If word spread that humanity had returned stronger than ever, conflict might erupt. The coalition leaders knew this, and the humans knew this too. So humanity made something very clear. We will not take anything, we will not impose anything. We will simply exist and offer what we have to those who choose to accept. No force, no pressure, only choice. Yet the coalition members could feel the weight of history in the air. The galaxy had once looked to humanity as a symbol of limitless curiosity. Now humanity was something else, a mystery, a reminder of what evolution could become, a mirror reflecting everything the galaxy feared and admired. The coalition stayed among the humans for many cycles. They observed their cities, their learning centers, their way of life. They saw no hunger, no crime, no war. Every person contributed to knowledge, to art, to well-being. Life was not rushed. Time itself felt different there. But even among all, the peace. One question lingered quietly. If humanity had gained so much power, what would happen if the galaxy rejected them? The coalition imagined how other civilizations would react. Some would welcome humans with joy. Others would panic. Some military empires would prepare for war, believing humans had returned to dominate the stars. The coalition felt something heavy in their hearts. Humanity had returned in peace. But peace was never simple. On their final day before the coalition fleet prepared to leave, one of the humans stood beside the visiting diplomat. She looked at the stars as if remembering them from another lifetime. "We did not return to be worshipped," she said softly. "We did not return to be feared. We returned because we remembered everyone, and hoped we would be remembered too." The diplomat nodded slowly. His voice was quiet. "The galaxy will not know how to react." The human smiled, gently, sadly. "We know. No anger, no arrogance, just understanding." The coalition ships departed, carrying the weight of the truth back to the galaxy. And as they left, they realized something important. The humans had not returned to prove power. They had returned to prove they were still human. But the galaxy was not ready, and the real test was about to begin. The news of humanity's return spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every communication channel, every news screen, every gathering hall, every marketplace buzzed with the same message. Some reacted with excitement, some with disbelief, some with fear so deep that it shook entire governments. For 20,000 years, humanity had been only a story, a legend used in books and museums. Now, that legend was real, standing alive in the present. Different civilizations reacted differently. There were peaceful worlds that were curious and hopeful. They believed humanity's return meant progress, cooperation, new knowledge, and a chance to fix old problems. But there were also powerful empires, ones that had grown large and dominant during humanity's absence. These empires did not want change. They feared losing control. They believed that if humanity returned, their power would weaken. They remembered ancient records saying that humans once influenced galaxies, started new sciences, changed economies, and shaped culture wherever they went. To these rulers, humanity's return felt like a threat. Slowly, a whisper of fear grew into discussions. Discussions grew into arguments. Arguments grew into secret military meetings. And soon, preparations for war began in hidden bases across many worlds. Meanwhile, humanity did not move aggressively. They stayed within their star system, inside the Dyson ring, calm and patient. They did not send warships to any world. They did not make demands. They did not try to prove power or superiority. Instead, they sent invitations, soft, gentle invitations. Small groups of scientists, doctors, thinkers, and students from various civilizations were allowed to visit the human world. They saw advanced medicine that could heal illnesses believed impossible to cure. They saw energy systems that created power without pollution or danger. They saw machines that worked like living creatures, growing and repairing themselves. These visitors returned to their home planets with stories that sounded unbelievable. Some were inspired and wanted to work with the humans. Others were frightened by how much humanity had changed. They said the humans were too calm, too controlled, too advanced. They said humanity wasn't just a species anymore. They were something new. This changed the balance of opinion in the galaxy. Some believed the humans were the future. Others believed they were the end. The governments that felt threatened began spreading fear through broadcasts and speeches. They said humanity had returned to take over the galaxy secretly. They said the Dyson Ring was a military base. They said the humans' calmness was a trick. They told their people that if they did not act first, humanity would enslave them. Fear grew like fire. Many ordinary citizens were confused. Some protested, asking for peace. Others prepared shelters or joined military training programs. The galaxy became tense like a storm waiting to break. Humanity watched all of this, but did not react with anger. Instead, the humans sent a message across every communication network, in every known language, spoken slowly and kindly so that everyone could understand. You fear what you remember, not what we are now. We did not return as conquerors. We do not ask for your worlds, your resources, or your loyalty. We only offer knowledge. What you choose to do with it is yours alone. The message was peaceful, but it did not stop the fear. Some leaders even twisted the words to say, "See, they are tricking us. They are pretending to be kind to lower our guard." War fleets began to gather. The coalition leaders, the ones who had first visited the humans, saw the danger. They traveled across worlds, trying desperately to convince governments to stay calm. They told them what they had seen. Humans who had no interest in ruling, no desire for control, no hunger for power. But the galaxy had not changed as much as humanity hoped. Many species were still guided by fear, pride, and the instinct to protect their territory. And fear spreads faster than truth. A council meeting was held among the strongest empires. The room was large, filled with holographic maps and tall representatives from dozens of worlds. Their voices echoed through the hall, each trying to prove their opinion. Some shouted for war, others begged for caution. Then one voice spoke above all others. It was the general of the most powerful military fleet in the galaxy. His voice was steady, confident, without hesitation. If we do not act now, we will be acting too late. With those words, the galaxy crossed a line. War fleets mobilized. Thousands of ships began to gather near the borders of the human system. Weapons were armed, shields were charged, engines glowed like fire. The sky of that region of space became crowded with machines built for destruction. The coalition, who had met the humans and believed in peace, stood in the center of the tension. They sent urgent messages to the humans, begging them to prepare defenses or flee. They feared that the first battle could destroy everything. The humans responded with calm that was almost heartbreaking. "We will not strike first," they said. "We will not begin a war. We trust the galaxy to choose peace." The coalition did not understand. They were terrified. They knew how powerful the human technology was. They had seen it. The humans could win almost any war, but the humans refused to fight unless attacked. The fleets moved closer and closer to the human system. Once they crossed the final boundary, it would mean war. Billions across the galaxy watched, waiting, holding their breath. Some prayed, some cried, some cheered. The coalition leaders begged both sides to stop. For a long, still moment, everything paused. Ships hovered, engines hummed. The galaxy was silent. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of sending warships to defend themselves, humanity sent ships filled with medical supplies, food, and energy modules. They sent ships that helped, not weapons. They sent rescue crafts to the systems suffering from famine and disease. They sent engineers to planets where environments were collapsing. They helped the galaxy, even as the galaxy prepared to destroy them. This act of kindness spread faster than any fear. People saw the truth with their own eyes. The humans were not preparing for war. They were trying to save lives. This changed everything. Citizens across many worlds began protesting their governments, demanding that war fleets be called back. Soldiers grew confused. Some captains refused to fight, Empires began arguing among themselves instead of uniting. Fear broke, but something else grew in its place: understanding. Slowly, the fleets backed away. The war never began. Humanity did not win through power. They won through choice. They chose peace when others prepared for violence. They chose patience when others chose fear. They chose compassion when others expected dominance. The galaxy realized something important that day. Humanity had not returned to take the galaxy. They had returned to heal it, and because of this choice, everything began to change. The galaxy slowly began to breathe again after the moment when war almost began. News of humanity's peaceful actions spread from planet to planet, carried by travelers, merchants, refugees, students, scientists, and ordinary people who had seen the truth with their own eyes. People talked in homes, in workstations, in starports, in marketplaces, in schools. The tone of these conversations changed. Instead of fear, there was curiosity. Instead of suspicion, there was wonder. Many who had once believed humanity was a threat now wondered if they had misunderstood everything. Because the humans had not just spoken of peace, they had shown it in action. They had helped famine worlds whose crops had failed and whose people were starving. They shared new ways to grow food in harsh climates and on planets where soil was too poor to sustain life. They taught how to use energy that did not damage the environment. They healed diseases that had been unsolvable for centuries. They offered technology that cleaned poisonous oceans and repaired damaged atmospheres. These gifts were not given as bargains. Humanity asked for nothing in return. No territory, no loyalty, no materials, no worship. They simply said, use this to help your people. Some worlds accepted immediately and openly. They saw the benefits and welcomed human assistance. Their cities flourished, their people recovered, and hope grew again in places where it had long been fading. Other worlds remained cautious. They observed from a distance, studying the changes before making decisions. A few governments remained stubborn and suspicious, still believing that any gift could be a trap. But even they could not deny the visible results happening across the galaxy. Slowly, the idea of humanity began to change in the collective mind. Before, humans were remembered as brilliant but unstable, curious, emotional, creative, sometimes dangerous. Now they were seen as calm, wise, and steady. They had grown into something new, something balanced. They seemed to understand life deeply, in a way that no other civilization had yet achieved. But it was not only the galaxy that changed. Humanity changed too, quietly, gently, in small ways that even they did not recognize at first. For 20,000 years they had lived in silence, separated from others. Their culture had become patient and inward. Now interacting with other species again, they learned how much emotion, energy, and diversity the galaxy held. They began to remember what it meant to communicate, to collaborate, to laugh with strangers, to learn new perspectives. They had returned to help, but in helping they themselves were being transformed. One day the coalition leaders, the first ones who had visited humanity, returned to the Dyson Ring. They were welcomed warmly. No guards, no barriers, just open paths and calm smiles. The hall where they had once stood in awe now felt familiar. They met the humans again, the same people who had first spoken to them. Those humans greeted them not as diplomats or representatives, but as friends who were returning home. The coalition leaders spoke honestly. They told the humans how the galaxy was changing. They described how some worlds had accepted help and grown stronger, while others still struggled with fear and pride. They talked about the difficulty of guiding entire civilizations toward peace when history and memory were heavy with mistrust. And they said something that everyone had quietly felt. The galaxy is not used to peace. It does not know how to accept kindness without questioning it. The humans listened silently, absorbing every word. When they responded, they did so with gentleness and understanding. Peace is not something that can be given, they said. Peace is something that must be chosen. Their words were simple, but they carried deep meaning. Peace was not a gift to be delivered. It was a decision, one that every world, every species, every government had to make for itself. This understanding became the foundation for what happened next. Humanity created what later became known as the Great Exchange. It was not an organization, not a government, not an empire. It was simply a shared space where knowledge, culture, art, science, language, music, medicine, and ideas from different species could be learned and exchanged freely. People from any world could travel there, not to be taught, but to learn together. The Great Exchange was built across several worlds, each one becoming centers of interstellar communication. They became places where different species, once strangers or enemies, now sat at the same tables, shared meals, discussed philosophy, worked on new inventions, and created things side by side. This was something that had never happened before in the history of the galaxy. Old rivalries softened. War fleets that had once pointed weapons at each other now traveled with researchers and students instead of soldiers. Borders became less important. Ideas became the new currency, not gold, not minerals, not territory. Knowledge became the most valuable treasure. But peace did not mean everything was perfect. There were still problems. Some worlds struggled to let go of past beliefs. Some leaders refused to change. Some people feared losing their cultural identity. Change is always difficult. And the galaxy was large and full of different minds and histories. Yet something new had begun, something that no single empire could stop. A generation of children across many worlds grew up knowing that humans had not returned to conquer, but to share. These children learned new languages, new sciences, new arts. They grew up believing that the galaxy was not a set of separate nations, but one vast family of different forms of life. And when children believe in something, they carry it into the future. Over many years, alliances formed naturally without force. Old conflicts faded slowly, like echoes from a distant era. The galaxy entered what historians later called the Age of Reunion. Life did not become perfect, but it became connected, and connection brought understanding, and understanding brought peace. Humanity, too, found something they had long been searching for. They found belonging. For 20,000 years they had been silent, searching for meaning, searching for growth. But they had learned something powerful. Growth means nothing without sharing. Knowledge means nothing without connection. Wisdom means nothing if kept locked away. They had left to become more than what they were, and they returned to help others become more as well. Generations passed. The galaxy changed slowly, steadily, and humanity remained present, not as rulers, not as saviors, not as heroes, but as companions on the same journey. The great mystery of humanity's disappearance slowly became less important. What mattered more was what they had brought back. The belief that life, no matter its form, language, body, or origin, was part of a shared story. A story still being written. And somewhere in the quiet space between stars, there was a feeling like the soft warmth of a returning memory. The understanding that absence is not the same as ending. The galaxy had once thought humanity was gone forever, lost to time and silence. But humanity had never been gone. They had only been preparing to return when they were ready. And the galaxy, though it did not realize it at first, had been waiting for them too. The story did not end with their return. It began with it.